Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show. Hello. Hello. Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good day.
Good night.
Good evening.
Goodness me.
Loch Ness me.
Well done. That was the Loch Ness game.
A nasty trick there. I apologise.
Yeah. It wasn't a game, and it's not about Loch Ness either.
But this is the Benji and Nick Show, your number one cult TV, vintage TV podcast in the whole universe, in the known world, in the unknown world, in just a world, really. We talk about cult TV, we talk about TV, old shows, we give it a little look, we see if it's worth your time, and if it's rubbish, we just say don't bother.
Don't bother.
Go do something else, nip down to Halfords, go buy a car jack or something. Just do that.
I don't think we're ever that harsh, are we? We might be today, though.
I don't know. I'd say today is a Halfords avoider straight off the bat there, but we will see. Maybe Shelley Dean has a great fact for us about what we're reviewing. Shelley Dean, of course, is our reviewer from over the seas, who'll be joining us later on. What are we covering today, Nick?
We're covering our heads in shame. No, we're covering My Mother the Car, which is an American comedy series.
In inverted commas. We'll get there soon.
Beloved of many.
Yeah, apparently so. Many being only the people that made it. And even then, they probably weren't that invested. I suppose we should straight away get round to the emails.
Yeah, although I would just like to say thank you to those of you who are following us on Patreon. And, well done. Thank you very much. Really helps Benji to shake his Daleks. No, helps with all the extra content we give you. We get recipes and after party and extra commentaries and
uncommentaries as well.
Yeah, go and have a look on at patreon.com. Type in Benji and Nick Show. Yeah. So yes, as Benji said, emails. I'll do the first one, shall I? Because I think I'm going to do two, and that will vary it nicely. I just need to find my email program and hold my computer up in this strange way. I'm going to actually change glasses to do this. No two ways about it. I'm a bit blind. These might work. Because see, that screen's too far away for these glasses, but this screen's just
right.
You
probably. I mean, I should probably change glasses as well. Actually.
What's he going to do? What? Come on. The suspense is killing me, Benji.
There we go. What about these?
Oh, very good. He's got sunglasses on.
I'd never wear these out. They make me look like a mole. Those weird sort of
John
Lennon style glasses always make me
John
look like
Lennon as a mole.
John Mole Man.
This is from David Steele, ex-leader of the Liberal Democrats. No, shut up. It's not true. Sorry about that. He's actually put sent from Liberal Party HQ at the bottom.
He
as
knows.
Well,
the jokes are getting predictable.
That joke. Right, the subject is Kolchak, and he says, Dear Benji, Nick and Shelley. Shelley will have to hear this when she hears the podcast later. Just a note to say that I'm really glad you chose an episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker to watch for the podcast. I first saw the series in the early 90s as part of Richard O'Brien's Mystery Train, which went out on BBC Two on Friday nights. It's been one of my absolute favourite TV series ever since. So I was a bit disappointed that Benji and Nick weren't as taken as I was, especially as one of the reasons I like the programme so much is that I think it's the closest an American series has got to, not intentionally I'm sure, capturing the programme so much. Capturing the essence. I've read the wrong line. Capturing the essence of why I enjoy Doctor Who so much. A quirky and brave lead character who gets involved in unusual situations and battles monsters in a budget-conscious and amusingly scripted way. I'm so glad that Shelley enjoyed it, though. I think if you had watched the original TV movie, you might have got more out of that.
Yes, I do apologise for not being as into it as I. Maybe it was. Maybe I was terrible. Yeah, I was clearly not.
I didn't like
place.
it either. So.
Oh, that's right then.
I'd strongly recommend an episode called Horror in the Heights if you ever felt like giving it another chance. While I'm here, I'll take the opportunity to thank you all for the great fun both your podcasts have given over the last year. It's been a difficult and lonely time, and your chats on a Sunday are something to look forward to and a big help. Very best wishes, David Steele. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Really, that is really lovely. Yes.
Kolchak.
And sorry about the
Horror in
stupid
the
Liberal
Heights.
Party jokes. Okay, you've got one there, have you?
Yes. This is called.
I'll just put that in the used
Subject of this
podcast
email. I
folder.
completely agree with all of your Kolchak opinions. No, I'm
You're just
being
making
silly
this
now.
up,
I'm just
aren't
making it up now. The subject of this one is reaching out after browsing Patreon. Cute Nick and Benji.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Been practicing
From the
the
Big
mirror,
Finish
the
podcast.
bath, you know. Yes, 'tis I, he who keeps writing to the Big Finish podcast, and now I'm listening to the Nick and Benji show too. Oh, the backward. That's like the Inferno version, isn't it?
Yeah,
the Nick and Benji show.
rather
We're
than
both
Benji show.
we're both sort of clean shaven. You've got hair and I haven't. It's all very strange.
And I've got an eye patch.
Yeah, an eye patch, and I just haven't got any shoes. I finally got around to subscribing after you guys recommended it to me back in Big Finish Day in 2019. You think with a pandemic I'd have more time to do things. Can't say vintage TV aside from old Doctor Who, of course, though I did find myself enjoying the first episode I'd heard, Mirror Mirror. Well, there we go. There we go, you see.
Mirror, squirrel mirror.
Having thought about it, though, I do very much like shows like Hello, brilliant stuff. Are You Being Served? I'm Free. Good Night, Sweetheart. Ladies Present, as such as well. I love all of those shows, so we're on the same wavelength, I think.
Yeah. I've got the wrong glasses on. I wonder why my head was
And the
starting
wrong
to
track.
hurt.
Well, you're reading another email, so you might as well keep them on.
Oh, no, good point. I don't
yeah.
know what to
Practical,
do, Benji. It's
see.
all changed.
Maybe you could sort of tilt both pairs of glasses, so you have one on one and one on the other. Sound like Wurzel Gummidge when he counts. I have one and one and one and one and one and one. Oh, there we go. That's very good, Nick. Balancing glasses in true fashion. On to things that I meant to actually say rather than my usual ramblings. On the Patreon, it mentions merchandise, but I'm not sure where to look to find it. Well, we can answer that question. If you nip down to your local Halfords, if you go to nicholasbriggs.com, and there's a shop, isn't there, Nick?
Yes. That's maybe a problem that people just don't know where to get it. Even.
We'll have to have a think about this.
Does it not say that on Patreon?
Well, it must not. No, I suppose not.
If it doesn't say it on Patreon, how on earth will people know?
Well, this could
Brilliant
be
marketing.
This could be. I mean, the good thing is, well, if you go to nicholasbriggs.com and go to shop, not only can you get Benji and Nick Show merch as well, but you can also get loads of other stuff that Nick sells on there as well. You can get signed copies of DVDs and prints and all sorts, and artwork and scripts, and yeah, there's plenty of stuff. Plenty of stuff
you
there.
With your advertising.
I know, what can I say, Nick? I'm a blessing in disguise of a moron. I wanted to say thank you on behalf of your blind listeners. You're probably doing it just because it's, a podcast, but I found it really great that you were describing the backgrounds that you both had. It's a level of involvement and thought that I've not heard in other podcasts, and also in Zoom calls in general. It's always great to be able to imagine and then laugh at the classic humour you both have and how you express that visually.
Hey.
Well, the good thing is I think we're both sort of quite visual people, aren't we, Nick? So we're always going on about what things look like and how bad everybody's flares are, and why aren't we wearing flares, and just flares in general, really. But
flares.
no,
What's your? Would you like to describe my background now?
Yes, Nick's got it. You look a bit like a sort of strange Scottish American, because on one side there are a load of stars hanging from the ceiling, and on the other side there's one of that Scottish hat with the checkered bits that the Brigadier wears in early episodes of The Web of Fear. My background's just a blooming
beige,
far too much.
But some
beige.
sound absorbent sort of
pads
things
and a boiler and a hat to one side of me. And not on the other. Where's the Benji and Nick Show hat gone? That's what I want to know. Anyway.
Where has it gone?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, for a start, I look the wrong way because it's mirrored image, so I actually should look that way. But who knows? But yeah, we do try, and especially it's really good that you messaged us about that as well, because it helps us to be conscious to keep doing it and make sure that we're even more aware of everybody that listens as well, including our blind listeners. So thank you for that one. What are the rules in emails? Obviously, keep Big Finish questions separate, but is Doctor Who, or are Doctor Who questions okay, such as this one? Well, we'll find out.
Yes, go on. Yes.
What inspired the various changes the Cybermen went through? Obviously, some were visually, because nobody is scared of poorly dressed BBC Monster, but I'm more interested in the voice changes. This is an interesting one, isn't it, Nick? And who better...
Yeah,
I
don't know what. I mean, the main reason is, I mean, I think they probably thought that the 1, 2 spoke like that, and they probably thought that was a daft idea and a bit laughable, but who knows? They did change it, didn't they, for the next story, the moon base, and then they used that electrolarynx thing, but attaching it to the soft or hard palates of poor old Peter Hawkins, and it made him feel nauseous and gave him headaches. He did do it again for the Cyber Planner in Wheel in Space, but that was the last time the Cybermen... Oh, no, sorry, he also did it in Tomb of the Cybermen. But he did do it again for the Wheel in Space, and that was the last time he did it. And then they started doing Cybermen with a ring modulator.
I suppose that was probably because of that exact reason. Probably he thought, this is just horrible. I can do a cyber voice with a ring mod, you know. And I dare say
Roy
as well,
Skelton doing that, you know, all that kind of.
We do know our ways.
Know our ways, as they nod up and down. Yes, that's
I
right.
mean, I can imagine
our ways.
That it would have tied in as well with costumes a bit, perhaps. You know, they'd say, oh yeah, we've changed up the cyber heads for Wheel in Space or whatever, and then somebody will say, oh, maybe we could do a new voice for them just to make them sort of seem a bit different, you know.
Well, there's the end of one episode in Wheel in Space where they've got the ring modulator at completely the wrong setting, and then when they do the recap, they put it back to the right setting. So, you know, it's two different versions of the same scene. So I don't know. And then, of course, in the 80s, they funnily enough, in Revenge of the Cybermen in the 70s, the ring modulation setting is the same setting they had for the 10th planet. But they just had people just talking like that. And that was the first time that the people inside the costumes were doing the voices. And they continued that in the 80s for Earthshock. And then the go-to effect, you know, in the 60s and 70s, the go-to effects device was the ring modulator, particularly in the 70s. In the 80s, the go-to effects hardware was the pitch shifter, wasn't it?
Well, flange and
all
chorus.
Doctor Who monsters.
Pitch shifting, flange, chorus.
But the pitch shifter thing, you know, for the Silurians they pitched it up, and for the Cybermen they pitched it down, and that was pretty much it, really.
But also, yeah, and I think it's because they could actually use this technology on a portable basis. You know, like especially at the end of Earthshock, you know, when you actually see, you know, you can see the voice box inside. They never did it again, did they? You know, with the cyber leaders,
where you could see the
visual,
the mouth
you could see the mouth moving, which I think is a great idea, by the way. Yeah, I think that's a really clever. But obviously they knew, because they learnt it the hard way, didn't they?
Well, it keeps getting frosted up, doesn't it?
Well, that, and also you see the box at the end, don't you?
I didn't notice that.
Have you never noticed that? Oh, I've
never noticed that.
So if you go...
Well, when he says, destroy them at once, that bit.
No, not at all. At the end of Earthshock, when the cyber leader's being sort of wrestled in the TARDIS, as he's sort of thrashing around like that, you can see the silver box that's obviously been gaffered or whatever inside the cyber helmet comes and
that's just for his mic, presumably.
Slips into his view. It's the voice. It's, you know, it's the, be that a little microphone or a little flange, but it comes straight into view and sort of sits and falls into that see-through section at the bottom.
Oh, well, I must go and have a look at that. I'd never noticed that.
So then for stories after that, they just sprayed it so you couldn't see in anymore, for obvious reasons, because, you know, it ruins the look. But
I thought it's because it just kept getting huffed up with the breath.
Probably a bit of that as well, to be honest.
And then, you know, when the new series came along and the Cybermen came along, it was just this weird process by which, because I was doing the voice of the Daleks, everyone thought, oh, well, he'll probably do the Cybermen as well, because that's what happened in the old days. And I remember David Tennant phoning me and saying, when are you going to come and do the Cyberman voices? I said, well, no one's employed me to do it. And he said, oh, no, they're definitely saying you're going to do them. And then Graham Harper, the director, phoned me up. And we didn't know what sort of voice to do. He kind of wanted it to sound like Darth Vader, he kept saying. Make it sound like, no, not Darth Vader, but Darth Vader, but not Darth Vader, is what he actually said to me, which was extremely helpful, as you can imagine. And then Russell T Davies did an impersonation over the phone of one that sounded like a Tomb of the Cybermen. And I said, the thing is, the only thing that's portable that I can bring with me to do a cyber voice is the ring modulator. So I thought I set it up to sound like the Invasion, but pitched my voice. I spoke down here like this, going through that very high-pitched ring modulation, which ended up sounding a bit like Earthshock, really. And then we redubbed them all in post. And their main concerns, they just wanted me to speak a lot faster. They kind of just wanted Daleks and Cybermen to speak quickly so you didn't have to listen to them for long, you know. Russell said to me over the phone, he said to me, look into my eyes, Nicholas Briggs, he said on the phone, speak faster. So that's the second time I did the Daleks. Joe Ahern, the director, said, the main thing I've been told is to get you to speak faster.
Fair play.
That's what I did, you know.
I mean, at the same time, you know.
And then they revamped the Cybermen, and then they got me in to do a voice, and I gave them loads of different alternatives, and then they just took my dry voice and pitched it down low and stuck it through a ring modulator, which made any vocal inflection impossible to detect because it was just you know. So. And then Rachel Talalay came in and said, and could you sound like Danny Pink in this scene? And I said, Rachel, I won't, because, you know, Danny Pink turns into a Cyberman. Yeah. She said, it's got to be like Danny Pink. And I said, with this effect, Rachel, I don't sound like anyone. You know, I said, but for you, I will think Danny Pink when I do it. She said, thanks, Nick, thanks. And I did it. And of course, it just sounds, you know, it doesn't sound like anyone in particular. So... It's interesting that when you've spent a large part of your adult life around voice effects, you know everything about it, and then people come along and ask you for impossible things, you know. It's like the equivalent of saying, I want my house painted yellow, but it has to be
blue.
Pink.
Yeah.
And you just go... you realise what you're asking for there is actually impossible. I mean, I don't want to be difficult, but that won't work, you know. And they kind of look at you like, could you just do the thing we asked you? Thank you very much.
I think what's interesting, though, there is a certain art to it, isn't there, in doing it? Because it is very interesting when you hear people doing impressions of things like Daleks and Cybermen. And it is interesting how you sort of either can do it and get the way it works, or people offer all kinds of really strange things of what they think it is, but it isn't. Like it always baffles me, you know, when you watch like old telly and they have like something which is obviously a Dalek, but they use like a flange effect, or they speak with an American accent, and just loads of weird things like that. You know, like I used to hate it. I hated it when in 2005, because we worked out, didn't we, that I was 14. We worked this one out before the podcast, and you know, I was at school I was at school at this time, and I remember the kids there after Dalek, you know, going on about it. But they say, and then when it was exterminate, and I was like, they don't do that. Stop, just don't say. If you don't say it, then none of us have to think about this. But, you know, it is funny how people have different ideas of what it is, and so, you know, it's
It reminds me of to do the publicity for the first DVD releases of that first series of New Doctor Who. I was doing interviews with all the radio stations around the country, and I was in a basement under Broadcasting House in London doing this for a whole day. And so, you know, you just go slightly crazy because you forget who you've talked to and who you've said what to. But anyway, there was one local radio station, and I can't honestly remember which area it was, where the guys said, we got Nick Briggs, the voice of the Daleks on. And anyway, earlier on we went out and we did some Dalek voices in the town, and they went and they played me this, and it went on for like 20 minutes, and I'm sitting there thinking, why am I on this program just to listen to two idiots going around town? And they had some sort of pitch shift effect on, you know, and then they came out, they said, and by now I was thoroughly hacked off with having to listen to this nonsense, and they came back to me, and don't forget, I've got a publicity person with me who's sort of monitoring everything I say and giving me signals like, don't say that, you know, this kind of thing. And they said, so Nick, what did you think of it? I said, well, frankly, I thought it was rubbish. And she looked at me like, no, you can't say that. And I said, you want to get yourself a decent ring modulator, mate. If you want to do a Dalek voice, you need to get the proper kit, you know. And they were absolutely appalled by my answer. They were kind of, I just thought I've really blown it here. I hope no one's recorded that program because it was me just being rude to two local. But that's what you find with a lot of these local radio presenters, pretty much like us talking here on this podcast. They sound very impressed with themselves. They're very invested in their program, and the guest comes on, and they don't treat the guest with any respect whatsoever. You're just there to be a part of them talking all the time. Hey, what do you think, Nick? That's interesting. The moment you've opened your mouth, But the thing is, I'm wearing a blue jumper today, and it's all that kind of vibe. It's hilarious, really, and which you can deal with if it's a one-off, and you're very polite and nice. But when you've been doing it all day, and you just want to go, shut up,
stop talking.
I'm bored. Oh dear, there's so many stories I could tell you about that, but I won't bore you with any further. There's another email. Or had you?
I'll just finish this one off there. It said, all being said, I'll get out of your inbox now and look forward to going back into the archives of television with you great lads. Well, we certainly try. There's plenty of twists and turns, and check out our archives of television as well.
Yeah.
All the best,
it got
Nathan.
Good value for money there.
Yeah, it's too true. All the best, Nathan. This email was sent from my microchip installed by the alien-run government who are not what they seem. Yes.
Oh, well, that's interesting, you see.
Yes.
Because this next one's called Conspiracy Theories.
Is it
from
actually?
Emmy Hurst. Yes, it is. Hello, Benji and Nick. Long-time listener, first-time responder. I agree on the conspiracy theory thing. To me, they're stories made up by people who are bored of their lives. Maybe they should listen to your show instead. You're absolutely right there. I've heard loads of them, but by all measures, my favourite secret organisation has got to be the Knights Templar, who at least have some basis in both fact and folklore. They're certainly one of the more interesting groups to read about during lockdown, and did help invent the modern banking system. Not bad for 9 poor knights of Christ. Did you know they even effectively invented the PIN number? A code was sent with their promissory notes that could only be translated by other Templars. Give me a Templar cross over a goofy-eyed pyramid or a rich gentleman's club any day. Yours in time and space, Emmy Hurst. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that.
Interestingly enough about the Knights Templar,
yes.
Down the road from where I live.
I knew that would pique your interest.
Well, history does, you see. Down the road from where I live, actually, is a place called Auckland Manor. I live over the road, actually, from Auckland Cemetery. Or cemetery, some would call it. Auckland, just good name, isn't it? But there was actually a small community there of Knights I can't say the word, Knights Hospitaliers or whatever it is. But basically, Knights of the Order of St. John of Jerusalem. The Knights Templar used to meet across the road from here. Apparently, they were connected to, I've got this written down in front of me now, Godfrey de Bouillon, who was recorded as staying at the commandery and then went on to capture Jerusalem. There we go. So
I just think I'll go on and capture Jerusalem.
So who would have thought that the Knights Templar were doing their old thing, and here I am on the site of where they were talking rubbish on a podcast. There we go. Auckland Man is very pretty as well.
So there we are. That's the emails. Don't forget, send them in to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. You can also send messages on Patreon. Shall we invite Shelley Dean on?
Let's do it.
Oh, the sun's gone in. Right, we'll do that. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Oh, hello.
Right, well, thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
All right, that was fun.
Yeah,
good seeing you guys. I'll see you
Shelley
next
Dean.
week.
She's
Thank
here.
you.
How's it
Thank
going,
you
Shelley?
very much. It's going good.
Jolly good.
It's another podcast day, so that's a happy day.
Hey.
Gives me something to do.
That's good. Well, we're glad that we're at least something. Yeah.
Yes. You are something.
That's good.
That is a fact.
That's you're really something.
Yes.
Do you have any notifications for us?
I do, and we have a new segment that we're starting here, and I've come up with a name.
Okay.
And it is called. Well, first of all, I don't know if you guys know this, but Shelley is actually short for Sherlock. So my official name is Shelley Holmes. So it's Sherlock Holmes. Okay, that was bad. Anyhow, so this week it flowed better in my mind before I actually put it out of my mouth. So this week we're going to be doing what we're calling the Patron Papers.
Oh.
It's a working title, so
I like it, though.
that's that.
Yeah.
So the headline story that we're covering this week is about a few of our lovely patrons, that being 42nd Seagoon, Jay Dermott, and Nick Tedstone.
Yes.
So the word on the street is that they have started a barbershop quartet called The Trouble with Trebles.
Hey, very good, very good.
Ba-dum-bum. They are currently looking for their fourth member to make it official.
Yes.
And that member would need to speak Pig Latin fluently, as that's the only language that they
It's
sing
the best
in.
language anyway, let's be honest here.
Yes. And we also have an update on David Tremont and the squirrel.
Oh, the
yes,
squirrel.
the squirrel.
I don't know if you
Squirrel?
guys... I don't know if you remember,
What's
but
a
David was
squirrel?
viciously attacked while taking a selfie with a
I
squirrel.
remember it very well. He sent an email to us as well to
Yeah.
Okay.
outline this disaster.
Oh, well, here's the scoop that I have.
Yes.
The squirrel has obtained a lawyer and won't be issuing any
Oh,
apologies for the
no.
attack.
It's really kicking off
So-
the squirrel world.
But I will stay on this story as it unfolds.
Thank you. Yes, that's the latest coming in there.
And that's Shelley D with the Patron Papers.
Patron
Well, just
papers.
squirrel that away for later.
Oh, very good, very good.
Okay,
So,
well,
yes.
you.
Comedy Hour, tip your waitress, have the veal. Anyhow,
I'll have the squirrel.
he'll have the squirrel stew,
Squirrel pie.
which is a thing people eat in America.
Is it on? Is right? Well,
Not in any place I've ever lived, but
No.
in America.
Yeah. America is many places.
Yes, it is.
So we are discussing my mother, the car. That's right.
Yes.
You've even forgotten the title.
Yes, well, that
Tell us
show
about
it was recommended by one of our patrons, Carl Scott. I thought I knew that last week, but now I know it for sure. He brought it up while we were having a chat in our Discord, and we had a very interesting conversation about that over there. The show itself, it's infamous for being named the second worst show of all time, and the funny thing about that is the first place show, and this was a TV Guide did this poll, I guess. I don't know who came up with it in 2002. So the first show was Jerry Springer, which isn't a scripted show. It's a talk
Yeah.
show.
Yeah,
So
I don't think
we
it's in the
could
same
say,
league, is it? It's different vibes, you know?
yeah, it's totally different. So I think we could definitely say that
And also-
My Mother the Car is the worst scripted television
But I
show.
think Jerry Springer was massive, certainly in the late 90s. It was huge. Like, everybody wanted a bit
Yeah,
of Jerry
I mean, he
Springer.
did an American show and a British show, didn't he?
Yeah, he did Jerry Springer in the UK, I believe.
I did not know
I think
that.
so, yeah.
He
You know,
did
it was
one in
huge.
the
And so to
UK.
say it was
yes.
the worst bit of telly, I think is that seems like an opinion rather than a... That feels like
Right.
somebody's very... Whereas this, whilst it is an opinion, is just a dreadful piece of television. There is
Okay,
no
well,
question.
let's...
So I've got something...
Benji's going to...
I've just got
we
something
already
to say.
started this conversation yesterday during
Well,
the
I've got
chat,
something
and I
to
said
say.
to Benji,
I have-
nope, we're done.
I've got something which I think is fair and which I think is fair but also true. Is that so? The show itself, you can tell that everybody making it was actually really enjoying making it, and the people that make the show, I think clearly, they believed in what they were doing and they wanted to make My Mother the Car. The problem with the show is, despite the fact that the production values are actually pretty good, the car's good, the way they do the effects is quite good, the actual, even the filming and this, stuff like that looks pretty decent. The problem is that whilst there are jokes in it, none of them are funny. There's nothing actually remotely. The premise of the show is executed terribly for what could be funny. There's nothing. The mother isn't funny. The chap's quite funny, but in a sort of uncomfortable fashion. The villain is.
Is he related to Dick Van Dyke? He's another
Yes,
Van Dyke.
it's his younger brother.
That makes
it's
perfect
Jerry Van
sense.
Dyke. Yes.
But there's no good jokes. There's not funny. It's not like there's no jokes in it that make you laugh. It's a very bizarre.
Something interesting
bit of
I did
telly.
read about that specific argument is there wasn't a laugh track. So a lot of the jokes you didn't. Audiences are considered very dumb, I would think. So when a joke is made, there's a laugh track that says This is a joke. You're
Yeah,
supposed
and it
to
does
laugh.
work. And we do laugh more when
Right.
we're in the company of others and we hear other people laughing. It's
So
true.
that
yeah.
was one thing I did read about this, that since it didn't have that, there were moments that, and also because there was something about the lighting that there were physically dark moments that were light moments so there was some confusion by somebody's review that I read online.
When was it made and how many?
Well, that was the thing.
Yeah.
We have it's My Mother the Car is an American fantasy sitcom that ran for a single season on NBC from
rubbish.
September 1965 through April 1966, and there were 30 episodes that were aired.
Wow.
We watched the pilot episode. It's called "Come Honk Your Horn," and the synopsis is while perusing the local car lot, David Crabtree discovers that his mother has been reincarnated as a junky 1928 Porter automobile. So he buys her, brings her home, much to the chagrin of both his wife and an eccentric car collector, Captain Manzini,
Yeah.
who will stop at nothing to obtain the car for himself.
He was my favourite character.
But he was the
Avery
only-
Schreiber, he's amazing.
He was the only
He's
actually
just-
funny, like outwardly funny character who had anything particularly funny going on. The rest
Did
of
that
it
guy?
was,
Did he used to do voices for Hanna-Barbera cartoons?
I don't know, but I knew visually. I recognized him. He was the star of all of the Doritos commercials in the 70s and early
What a
60s
thing to be
and
remembered
70s, I
for.
believe.
Are you the Dorito
Well,
man?
it was back then. That was a big deal.
Lucrative.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah.
Oh, wow, that
So-
moustache he had is actually his moustache. It's not even like a joke moustache. That was his trademark
No,
moustache.
that's-
Wow,
yeah.
His
okay.
very own joke moustache.
His very
that
own
he
He
grew.
was-
stupid one he takes
He was
with
a
him.
pair. Yeah, he was very famous for being in a comedy duo. And his part, it was Jack Burns. I'm saying that without really knowing. Come on, click on it. Yes, Jack Burns. Oh, God, good memory, Shell.
Well done, well done.
Burns and Schreiber, they were a comic duo that was just hilarious. But yeah, he did a lot of
He didn't do
walk
the
on
Hanna-Barbera
parts and
though.
stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know. I
he just
didn't
sounds
see
like a
anything
character
about
from a cartoon.
voiceovers.
Yeah, he just sounds like a
Yeah.
character from a cartoon.
The thing is, whilst he is outwardly funny, I think they've missed a real trick here because the mother, who is the car, she is devoid of pretty much any character as well. There's no, if she came back and she was like funny, like a funny, there was some other, but like she's come back to help him out with his life, but there's no character. She's just this woman that's a car, but there's nothing.
Oh, she's got that oh dear and all that. I mean,
But it's
I think
not
the
funny.
problem.
I'm meant to be laughing. That whole, it's like my mother the
It's
car.
not well written. That's what's wrong with
True,
it.
yeah.
You know.
I feel like it's more of a slapstick physical
Yeah.
comedy than it is anything else other than your basic mother-in-law jokes that you've got the mother-in-law butting into her son's marriage and the wife being exasperated by that.
Now, wouldn't
It's a
that
great
be better?
kooky. Yeah, it's a great kooky concept. It's just not been realised very well in terms of the story. And I didn't understand the ending. You know, when
Neither- yeah, I was gonna bring
he
this up.
gets away with it. What is it?
Offer
the
him 1,500 or
Hold on. Well,
something.
let me explain it for the listeners who haven't watched it. The wife wants to get rid of the car. What's that you've
He
got
went
there?
to go buy a station wagon
Yeah.
for
And he-
their family. And
and
he
he
comes back with this jalopy
Yeah.
beat up thing. So she's pissed.
Yeah, she wants him to get rid of it, and then this weird comedy character guy comes along who's a massive
Avery
car
Schreiber.
collector, and he is upping his price for it, and it gets up to $1,000, which in the mid '60s was really
something.
a huge fortune
Yeah.
to offer someone. And any family watching would have thought $1,000, and he's still not selling the car. And the wife wants to sell the car, but then who is it? The mother gives him the advice to accept the offer, then turn it down or something, and look strong.
No,
What was it?
to convince him, and I was kind of confused by this as well. But
Yeah.
to convince the bad guy to offer in
1,000.
front of the wife $1,500.
That's it. Yes.
And then to turn it down, because then that way he could convince the wife that if they keep holding him off, they're going to end up with getting so much money
is
for
that
the car.
Is that the reason?
That's how I took it. That's how I took it.
Right, I thought it was that if you show her you're strong, then she'll forgive you and let you keep the car, because she goes all weak at the knees. When he turns the guy down, he says to the guy, offer me $1,500 in front of my wife. And he goes, okay, thinking I'll get the car. Then he says, $1,500. And he goes, no. And the wife goes, oh, like, oh my God, you're so macho. You're going to have a great night tonight, honey. It's kind of, and I just thought, this is weird. I don't understand. But maybe that was more of a thing then, to show strength to your wife. It was a real turn on, and everyone would have got that and gone, oh, yeah, it's going to be great. And I just thought, wow, that means nothing to me. Yeah,
because I would think, as putting myself in the wife's position, it would be...
You just lost $1,500.
What do you mean you just turned down $1,500, you stupid idiot?
Yes, exactly.
Now, mind you, the character, David Crabtree, is a lawyer.
Right.
So he's obviously got some smarts.
Not in this script.
No.
So, but that's the thing, is he plays the character, and he's written as such a buffoon that every time I read that he was attorney David Crabtree, I was like, what? What?
That guy's an attorney, yeah.
That's part of the joke, isn't it? I mean, the thing is, I thought this was awful, and it was painful to watch, and it seemed to, and I think it only lasted about 23 minutes, and that was 23 minutes too long. But let us step back from this. And so it's something that was a silly, daft thing done in the 1960s. And if you were brought up with it, you probably have great affection for it, because it is a really great, kooky idea. I can imagine someone who didn't have the emotional connection with Catweasel, for example, finding Catweasel just like a load of nonsense, with a smelly man running around and jumping out and hiding in things, and the boy not understanding. They could say, what is this nonsense? But, I have a love for it because, and obviously I do think Catweasel's better written, and it's not all about stupid jokes, but... I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. So actually, I mean, I'm going to give it 1 exclamation mark, because I can understand that for some people they go, oh, that great show I loved as a kid. But, in the cold light of day, this is really awful. There's nothing about it that transcends the barriers of time to communicate to us now. We can't look back at it and say, they were on to something there. Not at all. Well, it's just a totally stupid thing that should be forgotten.
Well, I think if anybody's onto something, I think Shelley has raised a good point here. And to riff, what you saying about the mother-in-law, well, why don't they, if they wanted to write a good, funny programme, they should have called it My Mother-in-Law the Car. And this bloke who's been wanting to get rid of his mother-in-law for years because she's a cantankerous old bag, wouldn't it be much better if she was a horrible old battle axe, and then he finds his mother-in-law is reincarnated as the car, but he feels like he can't leave her, and he's stuck with this horrible old woman as part of the car. That would be funny, because then you get the joke of, like, he's stuck with this woman that he loathes, but he doesn't have the heart to get rid of her. That's sort of, you can get more mileage out of that. But a nice lady in a car is just like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, the inbuilt frustration in this is the same as the inbuilt frustration in many formats, is that, like in Randall and Hopkirk Deceased, no one else can see Marty Hopkirk the ghost, so Jeff is going to constantly be making an idiot of himself,
which is apparently the joke.
Yeah. Likewise, this, I imagine that no one else ever hears the mother-in-law. So in a way, this could be...
Yeah, nobody else can hear her except for him.
So in a way, this could be the story of a man who's suffering a mental breakdown, and he's just imagining that a car can talk.
Which
so
is
that's what I wrote down.
Which is indicated in it, isn't it? With the whole bit, he said, this car is my mother. And they're all looking at him like, you crazy.
Well, 2 things. The first one being that you have to remember that this is 4 years after Mr. Ed came out.
All right, the talking horse.
Which is great.
And it's the same, but why is that good and this isn't?
Because Mr. Ed's funny. And it's
no,
but I'm just saying, as far as a concept, you've got the same exact thing. You've got Wilbur is the only one who can hear Mr. Ed.
Right.
So everyone thinks he's crazy. And you've got David Crabtree, who's the only one who can hear his mother talking in this car.
I think the difference is in Mr. Ed here, because Mr. Ed is a talking horse. And that's funny, because the talking horse does stuff like helps him out with his tax returns and business like that. And there's something funny. You think, God, this bloke's getting help on his tax returns from a talking horse. Whereas if somebody said this bloke's mother is a car and is helping him with his tax return, it doesn't quite make you joke in the same way. You just think, well, why?
Well, I mean, the thought behind it, I suppose they thought Mr. Ed, horse. In the old days, people got around on horses. Modern times, they get around in cars. So maybe if we make a car speaker, it's sort of like an update of Mr. Ed, isn't it?
Maybe you're right.
Well, I personally think it is not deserving of the title, the worst show ever made. There have been oh my gosh, so many shows that were so much worse than this. That being said, something I did read to go on to something what Benji had just said, that I'm going to read this. My Mother the Car was inspired by Noel Coward's 1941 play Blythe Spirit, in which a man is haunted by the spirit of his deceased first wife who tries to disrupt his marriage to his second wife.
Yes.
The twist, only he can see or hear the ghost. In Hayward's sitcom variation, which was the first concept of this show, the man's wife would come back as a car after dying in an automobile accident. The pilot, dubbed My Wife the Car, was sold to United Artists, but executives thought the idea smacked of necrophilia and changed the spirit to his mother rather than his wife.
Smacks
Right.
of necrophilia.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
So he'd
I
end
thought
up
that was
having
very
sex with the
interesting.
car.
Or that it was just being inside of the car. I don't know.
Oi,
Get into
oi.
the whole,
This is a
like,
PG podcast. Come on.
euphemism of. I meant
I don't think
sitting
it
in the
is.
It's
car.
Yeah.
But it's something I wanted to bring up that I found
Yeah.
online. I have a subscription to newspapers.com, which is you can access newspapers from as early as like the 1700s here in America.
Wow.
And so I did a search and I found some from a November 1965 Pasadena newspaper, Pasadena, California, that is. I guess they had posted an article because the show had just been out for a couple months by then. And people wrote in to talk about their feelings of this show. And Mrs. Florence Junker said, "Yes, I think My Mother the Car is worse than awful. It's absolutely disgusting."
Go on,
And
Florence.
Mrs. K. Newcomb says, "Yes, indeed. I think My Mother the Car is an insult to both mother and the car. I have almost quit looking at TV."
Wow.
Imagine as it airs, you just drive past an apartment block, and all these televisions are flying out the window. Think, "Oh, My Mother the Car's on."
So I just got a kick out of knowing that
People
even
didn't
at the
like it.
time it was airing, this is what people were thinking. So I didn't hate it. I thought it was. I love Jerry Van Dyke, so there was a soft spot in my heart for him.
I've
was
never
good.
heard
this
of him.
character.
He was good, but
He's amazing. He was on a TV show here in America called Coach that starred Craig T. Nelson. I loved him. So I had a soft spot, and I didn't think it was horrible. I suspended my disbelief as far as, yes, it's a car, why? And I actually did tons of Googling trying to figure out, did they ever decide or explain why she's a car?
yeah.
Because of the
And-
Mr. Ed development thing. I bet that's
Yeah,
it.
but it just, so
There's-
I
it's
couldn't
something
figure that
It's
out.
something to do with the laws of whatever the afterlife. Couldn't she? She said that there's some law, which is why people can't hear her mother. She's blaming like some higher force that decides what you come back
No.
as, and she says that you don't get to choose. Like you just you can
That's
come
right.
back as
That's
anything.
right. Yes,
So-
it's a random
Gotcha.
thing. Yeah,
So-
I did say.
Gotcha.
Some
Yeah.
people might come back as a squirrel.
Yeah, or a piece of toilet paper or something.
Yeah.
it's just-
Well,
Yeah,
Trying
I'm
to think-
writing a sitcom now about a talking piece of toilet paper. Someone's about to. No. Anyway,
So I personally, I don't think it was horrible. I'm going to give it a 3 because yeah, Benji's guffawing at my
3.
I enjoyed it. Because I like Jerry Van Dyke.
yeah, I can
Then
see
that's
that.
fair.
I can
That's
see
fair.
that would work.
So-
yeah,
Gets
yeah.
a 1
That's-
from me.
and-
It's rubbish.
I'm well aware.
Well, you didn't give it a 0 though.
I don't think I've ever given
Can
anything
you?
a
Is that
0.
allowed?
Yeah, I don't know.
Of
Is
course
that
it is.
allowed?
I've certainly given 0s. Yeah.
It gets a
But anyway.
1. It's not. It's I think to sort of echo Shelley, I suppose. Really, whatever his name, Van Dyke, he was quite funny. Jerry Van Dyke, thank you. He was quite funny. He had that natural charisma.
You can see he's a very
capable
performer. Yeah, definitely.
And a little bit
like his brother
of trivia.
too. Like his brother.
Well, he's sort of mimicking his brother a bit, and that sounds awful, but it's true.
Well, he happened to Jerry Van Dyke, upon taking this role, he turned down another role.
Oh no!
To take this role.
What was that?
To play Gilligan in Gilligan's Island.
No!
And I quote, he said he didn't take the role of Gilligan because he thought the script was horrible.
Wow.
Wow, okay.
Thought this was good.
So I'm just saying, perspective.
Now, interestingly, a couple of years later, his elder brother took a role in a film about a broken down old car. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
I love that movie.
Yeah, me too.
Which is
I've rewatched it again actually with my mother just by chance. It just happened to be on the television, and she thoroughly enjoyed it because we'd seen it. She took me to the cinema to see it when I was a kid, And
I watched it within the last
it's always
decade
much better
because
than
I watched
you
it
think.
with my daughter when she was little. Yeah,
it's got Gert Frobe in it.
I
What more do you want? Him and his. Yeah,
You're my little churchy face.
It's a great film. It is a really good film. And it's
Ian Fleming wrote the book as well. Incredible.
Well, there's another Gert Frobe and Ian clearly have some kind of weird gap from some weird thing in common. But
there we are.
Different car things.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's I don't think I'll ever really want to watch any more of it. But
the thing is, it's
you
infamous.
surprise me.
No. I'm just going to say,
yes.
Be grateful that you watched it because if you now are aware of it, it's been a punchline in America, which is why when it was brought up on the Discord chat, I wrote something about, that was really popular here in America, not knowing that it was quote unquote popular because of how terrible it was. I was unaware of that aspect of it. So you can hear you'll hear it in movies and TV shows mentioned a lot about being a terrible idea.
Right,
so
right.
Now you can go, I agree.
I thought you were going to say, now you've seen it, be grateful that any television you watch is not going to be as bad as that, which is also true.
Again, I can say you guys have made me watch some stuff too. So.
That's what this show's all about. And
sorry. Yeah, I'm not complaining. No, I just love the idea that someone threatened to stop watching television altogether. Yeah.
And her name was Mrs. K. Newcomb of Pasadena, California,
that's a bit like
circa
saying,
1965.
That's a bit like saying, I read something bad on the internet, so I'm not going to use a computer anymore.
Ever again.
I once read a really bad book, so I'm never going to read anything ever again.
I'm going to burn libraries.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's keep this thread going then, a car theme, because let's take Shelley. Let's put this on you then. Here's something that's, I wouldn't say it's beloved to a certain extent. It's a legendary program in this country, and it's inspired many programs after it. And it's Z Cars, not Z Cars, Shelley. Z Cars. And Z Cars has been on for.
We don't say Z.
It was on for a long time. Classic sort of police drama back in the day.
It was the first realistic, in inverted commas, police procedural drama on British television.
Okay.
Up until then, the police had always been represented in a very goody-goody way, but this blurs the lines a little bit, and is great. And it's about the policemen are hard-working, rough men, aren't they, in a northern town, basically.
Okay.
But
so we will be watching Z Cars.
Episode 1, the first episode of Z Cars. So
awesome.
That reminds me of when I was at an American Doctor Who convention on stage, and I said, on the plane over, I watched I can't remember what's the film called?
World War Z.
World War Z. And the audience just looked at me like, what's he talking about? I went, sorry, World War Z. And they went, oh, yeah. And Z and Z sound so different that Americans just will not understand what you're saying if you say Z. Whereas we do understand if you say Z. We know what you mean. But Americans kind of like, their minds just go blank. No, Z, that's not a word.
Because that's just not... in our vernacular
Yeah.
when it comes to
Neither
the
Z
letter
for
Z.
us, but somehow
Right.
we're able to understand it. And what the lesson here is you have the dominant global culture.
Yeah, America.
Yeah, America.
I
We
love
know
that
all about you,
American-
but you don't know about us. I mean, I know I've seen interviews with some Americans who don't know what England is, and they say, "Well, you speak English?" And they say, "No, we speak American."
Yeah.
You know, you think, no, you are actually speaking English. That is the name of the language. Anyway,
The Queen's English.
Queen's English. Well, I wouldn't say it was the
Queen's
Queen's English.
Well, wherever we are, whatever it is, that was the American Jets, and now I think it's time for us to say goodbye before we enter uncharted territory.
So Zcars next week. Lovely.
so
We're watching the
Zcars.
first episode.
Keep Zedding, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, later.
Pressing stop now. Ka-chunk.